Okay, another type of elasticity, income elasticity. Formula is the same. Percentage change in quantity over percentage change in, instead of price, it's income. So you see on the slide, get rid of the P and put an I for income. Anytime you have elasticity is greater than 1 elastic, less than 1 inelastic. But what's important for the income elasticity are the last 2 bullet points. If it is positive and if it is negative. If EI is positive, think about this. The percentage change in quantity would have to move in the same direction as the percentage change in income. So if your income started at the bottom, if your income went up, put your thumb in the air going up, then the quantity of the good that you demanded also went up. Is this an inferior or superior good? It's a superior good. The more money you have, the more you want to buy of the good goods, right? The normal goods. So if IE is positive, then you want to write down the good is normal or superior. If it's negative, the next bullet point, it's an inferior good. That's easy to remember. Negative we think is inferior, so that kind of helps with wordplay. But think about it. If your income goes down, put your thumb down, and your demand for the good goes up, put your other thumb up. It's an inferior good. The less money I have, if I'm going to buy more of something on less money, it must be a cheap good. It's the loops of fruit instead of the Fruit Loops. I want you to pay real careful attention here. For EXY, cross price elasticity of demand, the formula, point to it on the computer screen. You're going to write something down, but with a little change. Percentage change in quantity of X, put an X next to Q, over percentage change in price of Y, put a little Y by the price. This is saying, how does the price of hamburgers affect my consumption and demand of hot dogs or Sprite and Coke or whatever? And it deals with substitutes and complementary goods. If the AP test asks you about cross elasticity, somewhere in the answer they have to be talking about complements or substitutes. So if EXY is positive, think about it. Start at the bottom. If the price of the good went up, put your thumb in the air going up, and your demand for the good also moved in the same direction because it's positive, and your demand for it went up, they have to be what? Substitutes. If the price went up and then you're demanding more of something, well, it must be because you're substituting out. So if the cost of hamburgers go up, then I'm going to demand more hot dogs. Those are substitute goods. Alternately, if it's negative, write this down. They are then complements. Put your thumb as going up because the price of hamburgers went up. So then if the quantity demanded, let's say it's ketchup, if the price of hamburgers went up, then my demand for ketchup is going to go down because I am not going to be able to afford it as much. Something that is really important to clarify, and I would actually sketch this. If the price of hamburgers went up, write this down. Price, burgers, we'll say up. Price of hamburgers, up. I want you to draw a little graph, an X and a Y axis, P and Q. I want you to draw a downward sloping demand curve, and I want you to pick any point on that line. Mark it. If the price of the hamburger went up, what happened on the graph? There's no shift. It's a quantity demand change, right? No determinant of the burger's change. So make another point that is to the left of that. At that point, price is higher, and you can see that the quantity demanded is lower. So quantity demanded would go down for the burgers. Where there's an actual shift is in the ketchup market. So draw the ketchup market. Same thing, downward sloping demand curve. Give it a supply curve. The demand for ketchup also went down. So draw it shifting downward. So the price of the hamburger itself was just a movement along the curve, but for ketchup, it was a shift of the actual curve. So the graphs that you drew should have looked something like this. Point to A. Look that when you go to B, your price went up, quantity demanded went down. Not change in demand, quantity demanded went down. But if you look at the ketchup market, it's complement. When the price went up, the demand actually shifted for ketchup to the left. Before we move on to producer and consumer surplus, the last Roman numeral 4, price elasticity of supply. Just remember, there's no total revenue test. You can't do the total revenue and price moving in different ways. It's just that percentage change of quantity over percentage change of price. If yes is greater than 1, it's elastic, less than 1, inelastic. Same with demand. Also, before I move on to the last segment here, my dog, I don't remember if I said her name in the last slide, but you'll need to know it now. Her name was Lucy, and we bought her from a different owner, and they named her because they love the show I Love Lucy. Keep that in mind. Okay, consumer and producer surplus. Write the definition. Consumer surplus is the difference between the max a consumer was willing to pay and what they actually paid. So when you look at this graph, look at supply and demand in the intersection, that's equilibrium. Above equilibrium prices, there's still demand. It's less, but all those people would have paid higher prices. Below equilibrium, people would have paid even lower. Well, that's obvious. So the difference then is the difference between that demand curve above equilibrium, put your pen on that, down to what they had to pay. Bam, that stops at equilibrium. Equilibrium's like the home base. For producer surplus, it is the difference between the max or the minimum that the producer was willing to accept as payment and what was set in equilibrium. So all those start at equilibrium, all that supply curve to the left, below equilibrium, those suppliers would have accepted less money for the good. So they were like, hey, we benefited. It's sweet. We get a higher equilibrium price than we would have gotten for our cakes. So you start at supply at equilibrium, put your pen on there, a little line, and you rotate it all the way up, bam, until you hit equilibrium. That's the producer surplus. When both are equal and maximized, that is called, so draw this graph, sketch it. This is called efficiency. When you maximize, write it down, maximize consumer and producer surpluses, which you can abbreviate in this way. But it's a super important concept. That's called efficiency. You might also see in a multiple choice question about consumer surplus that it's showing the difference between the value a consumer places on a good and what they had to pay. That's the same thing. The value of the good to me, the value of the cake to me, is represented in how much I'm willing to pay for it. So they can say the consumer surplus is the max difference between what I was willing to pay, or they could use sort of a synonym phrase and say the max between what I valued the good and what I actually paid for it. So they mean the same thing. Inefficiency. This is, and you can write this down, where either a quantity is produced, so Q produced, or price set that causes inefficiency, not at equilibrium. And in this example here, I have a quantity that was set. Maybe there was a quota put on by the government. You can't make more than this red line, this quantity, this quota. When you look at it, or when you draw it, and you should draw this, you see that consumer and producer surplus is lost. So your consumer surplus is what it was before, up to the red line. Same with the producer surplus. The little triangle that no one gets now is called dead weight loss. So you want to label that. Okay, here you have a price set above equilibrium. So draw it. Draw it across. That was me, sound effect, drawing it across. Okay, you then have to mark at this point the quantity that's produced at this price. Well, it's going to be whatever's demanded. I mean, that's what's consumed. You can make as many cakes as you want, but it only matters what people buy. So where it intersects demand, you mark the quantity. Now you have changing consumer and producer surplus. Now you go from demand, put your pen on demand, bam, down to the new price. That's home base. The new price is home base now. And you shade it in. That's consumer surplus. You then take your supply up to the new price, your home base, and you shade it in. That's producer surplus. And then the triangle loss, that's called deadweight efficiency loss. Here in this graph, it's the little bubbles. I was going to tell you something, but I forget what it was. Oh, yeah, I remember. Don't you feel like you're in class when I do that all the time? What happened to producer surplus in this scenario? It increased. What happened to consumer surplus? it went down. That concludes our 5th review session. You've learned a few important details about not only Econ, but my previous dog, Lucy. So those facts that you learned, you need to come find me to ask a series of questions for Miss Burchell, and I give you one final one. I got the dog in 6th grade because I'd been wanting one forever, and in 5th grade I had a seizure, and my mom felt sorry for me, and that's why we had it. Also remember to do the practice questions to this, and the answer key is in the packet, so you get the answers from the practice questions.